In 2019, if you told a utility executive that AI would create hundreds of terawatt hours of new electricity demand by 2030, they would have laughed you out of the room. Nobody's laughing anymore. Dominion Energy has interconnection requests totaling over 10 gigawatt hours in Northern Virginia, though the actual pipeline is even larger at approximately 16.5 gigawatt hours as of their 2023 testimony. That is enough power for 8 million homes, and they need it operational in 3 to 5 years. According to Dominion's November 2024 filing, its Virginia territory's peak demand without data centers will remain relatively flat, rising slowly to approximately 18,000 megawatts by 2034. That's minimal natural growth. Now, they're facing 16.5 gigawatts of interconnection requests that must be operational by 2030. That is magnitudes beyond anything that they anticipated. And they're not alone. This is happening across the country right now. And most utilities are working with planning models that assume 1 to 2% annual load growth. Models that never contemplate a single customer requesting 500 megawatts or facilities with 95% load factors running continuously. Welcome to Grid Impact. I'm Hasim Dawkins, and today we're going inside of the numbers on the AI load crisis that's reshaping American utilities. Let's start with what we know. McKinsey & Company projects that U.S. data center consumption could reach up to 606 terawatt hours by 2030, up from the projected 147 terawatts in 2023. The Department of Energy's Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, in their December 2024 report, provides a more conservative range, 325 to 580 terawatt hours by 2028, representing 6.7% to 12% of total U.S. electricity. To put that into context, that's roughly equivalent to adding the entire electricity consumption of Germany to the U.S. grid in 5 years. But it's not evenly distributed. It's concentrated in specific markets. Loudoun County, Northern Virginia, represents about 13% of global data center capacity, making it definitively the world's largest data center market in the world. Dominion Energy's data center load has grown from a gigawatt in the mid-2010s to 3 to 4 gigawatts today. And they have over 16 gigawatts more in the interconnection queue right now. Arizona Public Service and Salt River Project are seeing similar patterns. Arizona is becoming a major AI hub because of available land, fiber connectivity, and historically low electricity rates. The problem? The peak demand already stresses their system during 115-degree summer days. Now, at AI training facilities that run 24/7, drawing hundreds of megawatts of power continuously. Georgia Power projected 6,600 megawatts of new data center load by 2030 in their updated 2023 Integrated Resource Plan. That's 17 times their normal multi-year forecasted load growth. 17 times. However, those projections have already been superseded. Georgia Power's approved January 2025 IRP now projects 8,200 megawatts of load growth through winter 2030-2031. An increase of 2,200 megawatts beyond their 2023 projections. As of September 2025, projections show 8,448 megawatts of growth. These aren't projections anymore. These are signed power purchase agreements and interconnection requests sitting on utility desks. The crisis isn't coming, it's here. So, what does this actually mean for utility operations? Let me break down the 3 critical operational challenges utilities are facing right now. Challenge 1, infrastructure timeline mismatch. A typical transmission line takes 7 to 10 years to site, permit, and build. A major substation, about 3 to 5 years minimum. Generation, forget about it. We're talking 5 years for a gas plant, 3 to 4 years for utility scale solar with storage. And that's if you can get through the interconnection queue. Speaking of which, the interconnection queue is now roughly 2,600 gigawatts deep as of the end of 2023. Nearly 1,570 gigawatts of generation plus 1,030 gigawatts of storage. The entire U.S. has about 1,200 gigawatts of installed generation capacity. We have more than twice our current grid capacity sitting in line, waiting to be connected. Data centers need power in 18 to 36 months. Utilities need 5 to 10 years to build it. That's not a gap, that's a chasm. Challenge 2. Traditional forecasting models don't work anymore. Every utility has sophisticated load forecasting models. They factor in economic growth, weather patterns, electric vehicle adoption, and building electrification. They're pretty good at predicting 1 to 2% annual load growth. But those models didn't predict a single customer requesting 500 megawatts. They didn't predict facilities that draw 50 megawatts continuously, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, with near 100% uptime requirements. Traditional industrial customers have load factors of 40 to 60%. They ramp up and down. They have maintenance downtime. They respond to price signals. AI training facilities, 95% load factor. They run continuously, and they can't shut down without corrupting training runs that took weeks to set up. This isn't just more load. It's a fundamentally different load profile that breaks traditional demand-side management strategies. And here is where it gets really complicated. Challenge 3, not just a generation problem. When utilities talk publicly about data centers, they focus on generation. We need more power plants. We need more renewable energy. That's only half of the problem. These massive facilities connect to local distribution and sub-transmission systems. A 300 megawatt data center needs dedicated substations, upgraded transformers, and reinforced local circuits. In Northern Virginia, Dominion isn't just building generation. They're rebuilding entire sections of their distribution network. They're installing transmission lines that normally serve entire countries just to connect a few data center campuses. The costs are staggering. Dominion is looking at 2 to 5 billion in transmission and distribution investments just to serve this new load. And here's the question every utility has to answer. Who pays for that? Do you spread the cost across all ratepayers? Do you charge the data center directly? What happens when a data center threatens to go to another state if you charge them the full rate? We'll come back to that. But first, let's take a look at how utilities are actually responding. So, with all these challenges, what are utilities actually doing? I've reviewed integrated resource plans, rate cases, and data center service agreements over the past 18 months. And the responses fall into 4 main categories. Let me walk you through what's working, what's not, and what's too early to tell. Response 1, build, baby, build. The most common response is the most obvious. Build more generation, fast. Georgia Power's 2025 IRP includes 3 new gas combustion turbines at Plant Yates, approximately 4,000 megawatts of renewable resources by 2035, with a near-term target of 1,100 megawatts, and approximately 1,500 to 2,065 megawatts of battery energy storage. The most commonly cited figure for the capacity expansion between 2028 to 2031 is approximately $15 billion to add about 8,000 megawatts, according to reporting by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution in August 2025. Is this working? Partially. Gas peakers can be online in 2 to 3 years if you can get permits. Solar farms with batteries, 18 to 24 months if the interconnection study goes smoothly. But here's the problem. Data centers are signing leases faster than utilities can break ground. Every IRP I've reviewed already needs an update within 6 months because load forecasts keep increasing. Dominion's actual interconnection timeline shows their May 2023 IRP filing was followed by October 2023 testimony revealing approximately 16.5 gigawatts in total pipeline, far exceeding early projections. By the October 2024 IRP filing, they reported 7.5 gigawatts currently being studied. It is nearly impossible to plan for growth when the growth rate itself keeps accelerating. Response 2. Make the data centers pay for their own power. Some utilities are taking a different approach. If you want 300 megawatts, build your own generation on site. Microsoft has committed to powering many of their new data centers with dedicated renewable energy. Some facilities are being designed with on-site gas generation as backup. Meta has built several facilities with adjacent solar farms that directly power the campus, with grid connection only for backup. This approach has real advantages. 1. Removes burden from utility generation planning. 2. Accelerates timeline. Data center controls the build schedule. 3. More cost effective if the data center secures power purchase agreements directly. But it has limitations. These facilities still need to connect to the grid for reliability. So you're still building transmission infrastructure. You're still upgrading substations. And most importantly, you're not solving the fundamental problem for existing customers who now face higher rates because utilities' hard costs are spread over a smaller retail load. This is the death spiral, and it's already happening in some territories. Now we're getting to the more interesting responses. Some utilities are asking, can we manage this load more intelligently instead of just building our way out? PJM interconnection, the grid operator covering 13 states from Illinois to New Jersey, had about 7,900 megawatts of demand response capability for summer 2025, according to PJM's May 2025 summer outlook. The 2024-2025 delivery year cleared about 8,065 megawatts of demand response capacity. That's nearly 8,000 megawatts they can call on during peak events by paying customers to reduce load. California ISO has gotten even more creative. During the September 6, 2022 heat wave, when the grid was on the edge of blackouts, they sent emergency alerts asking customers to conserve power. Within 5 minutes of issuing the emergency text alert, electricity demand dropped by more than 2,100 megawatts. Over 2,000 megawatts from a text message in 5 minutes. Now, imagine if that was automated, coordinated, and paid weekly and reliably, and not just during emergency events. Sacramento Municipal Utility District launched a virtual power plant program that aggregates home batteries. At full scale, it was designed to provide up to 27 megawatts of flexible capacity. However, as of 2025, their VPP program has been temporarily paused for new enrollments following the shutdown of aggregator partner Swell Energy. SMUD has stated that they are working to reopen the program soon. But here's the constraint. Demand response is episodic. It helps you manage peaks. It helps you avoid building the last 10% of generation that only runs a few hours per year. It doesn't help you serve a data center that needs 500 megawatts continuously, 24/7. You need both. You need both new generation and use to manage existing demand more intelligently. Response 4, the difficult conversation. And then there's a response that nobody wants to talk about publicly, but everyone's considering privately, saying no. Several utilities have started pushing back on interconnection requests, not officially rejecting them, that's difficult legally, but slow rolling the interconnection studies, proposing cost allocations so high the data center goes elsewhere, or setting terms that make the project uneconomic. Now, I'm not going to name names here because these are confidential matters, but I can tell you this is happening, and I understand why. If you're a utility serving 2 million residential homes and a data center shows up asking for enough power to serve 400,000 homes, and building that capacity will raise rates for your existing customers by 15 to 20%, what do? Do you have an obligation to serve? Absolutely. But at what cost to your existing customers? This is where regulators have to step in with clear policy guidance, because right now, utilities are making these decisions on a project-by-project basis without clear frameworks. And that brings us to the federal perspective. When I was at the Department of Energy, I reviewed low-growth scenarios. But I'll be honest, no one anticipated this magnitude of load growth. DOE modeled electrification, heat pumps, electric vehicles, electrical industrial processes. We modeled data centers based on historical rates. The 2016 DOE report projected that data center consumption will remain relatively flat, building on the gains we've seen from 2010 through 2016. We were wrong. By 2018, actual consumption had already exceeded our most aggressive scenarios because we didn't anticipate AI servers. The most recent Department of Energy report, produced by Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory and announced in December 2024, now projects the total U.S. data center electricity usage will increase to 325 to 580 terawatts by 2028, representing 6.7% to 12% of total U.S. electricity. We underestimated the AI revolution. So, what is the federal government doing about it? Effort 1, interconnection queue reform. FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, issued Order 2023 in July 2023, which became effective November 6, 2023, to try to speed up the interconnection queue. The new rules require faster timelines, more deposits from developers, and clearer processes. The order addresses the backlog of 2,000 plus gigawatts of projects, mostly solar, wind, and battery storage, waiting to connect to the grid. It shifts from first come, first served to first ready, first served. Cluster study approach with stricter commercial readiness requirements. Will it work? Probably. Eventually. But this rule applies to transmission connected resources going through RTO interconnection processes. Most of the data center load we're talking about is distribution connected, which is under state jurisdiction, not federal. So it helps in the margins, but it doesn't solve the core problem. Effort 2. Grid Resilience and Innovation Programs. The Grid Deployment Office at DOE, created by the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, has $10.5 billion to invest in grid resilience and innovation over fiscal year 2022 through 2026, broken down as $2.5 for grid resilience utility and industry grants, $3 billion for smart grid grants, and $5 billion for the Grid Innovation Program. They're funding projects that help integrate distributed resources, improve grid flexibility, and accelerate transmission deployment. Some of this funding is going directly to utilities dealing with rapid load growth. As of October 2025, approximately $7.6 billion has been announced or awarded, $3.46 billion in round 1 for 58 projects in 44 states, and $4.2 billion in round 2 for 46 projects in 47 states, plus DC. This is real money, and it's helping. And $10 billion is a lot, until you look at Georgia Power, who's investing roughly $15 billion in expansion to serve data centers. The federal funds are helping, but it's not nearly enough to solve the problem. Effort 3. Efficiency standards. The Department of Energy is also working on energy efficiency standards for data centers. Can we make AI training more power efficient? Can we encourage liquid cooling, better power management, waste heat recovery? These are important long-term solutions. If we can reduce AI energy intensity by 20%, that's 200 terawatt hours we don't have to generate by 2030. But this is critical. Efficiency improvements tend to create rebound effects. So more computing efficiency will likely lead to more computing. We've seen this in every industry. More efficient lighting led to more lights. More efficient vehicles led to more driving. And most likely, more efficient AI will lead to more AI. So, yes, pursue efficiency, but don't count on it to solve the AI load growth crisis. Which brings us to what comes next. If you're a utility planner, state regulator, or anyone operating this space, here's what you need to watch over the next 6 months. Watch point 1, Integrated Resource Plan updates. Major utilities file integrated resource plans on 2 to 3 year cycles, but many are now filing amendments more frequently because load forecasts keep changing. Key utilities to monitor. Dominion Energy, Virginia. Massive data center load with a 16.5 plus gigawatt pipeline. Georgia Power. Latest projections show 8,200 plus megawatt growth through 2030-2031. Arizona Public Service. Desert data center boom. Duke Energy, Carolinas. Manufacturing plus AI growth. PJM Utilities. 30 gigawatts of new data center load. These files will show you what utilities actually plan to do. Not what they say publicly, but what they're actually committing to in regulatory filings. Pay attention to how much has their load forecast increased since their last filing? What generation are they proposing, and when do they plan to build it? How do they propose to allocate costs between existing customers and data centers? That last point, cost allocation, will be the battleground for the next several years. Watch point 2, State Commission actions. State public utility commissions are starting to realize they need clear policy frameworks for data center load. Watch for proceedings in Virginia. Northern Virginia is ground zero. How does the Virginia SEC handle Dominion's requests to build billions in infrastructure for data centers? The decisions made during these proceedings will set precedents that ripple across the country. If Virginia approves a specific cost allocation methodology, expect to see other states follow. If Arizona develops a special data center rate class, expect to see it copied. Watch how tech companies respond if utilities can't or won't serve them fast enough. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, they all have teams negotiating power procurement. If utilities say, we can't serve you for 5 years, these companies will explore direct power purchasing agreements with generators, on-site generation, solar, batteries, potentially gas, locating facilities in different territories or states. In extreme cases, pursuing municipal utility franchises. That last one may sound extreme, but it has happened before. Large industrial customers have left utility systems when the services were seen as inadequate or the prices weren't competitive enough. If you see a big tech company announce that they're starting their own utility or partnering with a municipal utility to serve data center campuses, that's a signal that the incumbent was not able to meet their needs. Watch point 4, technology breakthroughs. Keep an eye on technology developments that could change the equation. Small modular reactors. Several companies are proposing SMRs specifically for data center load. If they can get through NRC approval and prove economics, this could be a game changer. Timeline 2028 through 2030 at the earliest. Advanced geothermal. New drilling techniques could make geothermal viable in more locations. Google is already investing. Timeline 2026 through 2028. Long duration storage. 10 plus hour batteries or other storage technologies could help manage the supply-demand balance better. Timeline 2025 through 2027 for commercial deployment. I'm skeptical that these technologies will solve the problem in the next 3 to 5 years, but 2027 through 2030, yeah, they can make a really big difference. Watch point 5 next summer. Finally, and most immediately, watch what happens during the summer of 2026 peak. NERC's Summer Reliability Assessment already shows capacity concerns in Texas, the Southwest, and parts of the Southeast. That's before factoring in continued data center growth. If we have a heat wave, like September 2022 in California or July 2023 in Texas, in addition to new data center load, we'll see how well utilities can manage. Best case scenario, demand response and VPPs perform well, and there are no major issues. Worst case scenario, we have rolling blackouts in major metros, and that becomes a catalyst for policymakers to make change. Now, I'm not predicting rolling blackouts, but what I am saying is that we will see how serious policymakers take this problem if the system is stress tested next summer. So, where does this leave us? The AI crisis is real. The numbers are staggering, and many utilities are responding with plans designed for 1 to 2% load growth, not 10x increases in 5 years. Some will adapt faster than others. Some have advantages: existing grid capacity, transmission infrastructure, supportive regulators. Others will struggle. Over the next several episodes of Grid Impact, we'll dive deeper into the solutions. I'll show you the utilities that are getting ahead of this. I'll show you the DERMS and virtual power plant technologies that are actually working. We'll analyze the regulatory strategies that are getting approval faster, because this isn't just a crisis, it's an opportunity. The regulators, the utilities, the technology providers that are figuring this out will define the next 20 years of the electricity sector. Next episode, I'll take you inside real-time grid controls. I'll show you how the best utilities are managing millions of distributed energy resources and why the utilities still using 30-minute interval data are flying blind. I'm Hasim Dawkins. This is Grid Impact. Subscribe, because this is just getting started.